Okay, so One Shot. This is, I believe, the ninth book in the Reacher series, and I've read about 10 or 12 because I skipped around a little bit. So this book is pretty cool, and I got to say, it's probably my favorite one in the series, at least so far. However, a big caveat is part of the experience of reading this was that I had also recently watched the movie. It's the first movie with Tom Cruise that's kind of based on this book. And so the whole time I was kind of comparing the book to the movie, and I've actually found that made it more enjoyable because I kind of had kind of a framework to kind of think about what they were doing in the book and to look for the differences and the similarities. And so overall, no spoilers, by the way, overall, it's pretty similar to the movie, but there's one big change at the end in terms of what one character is doing versus a different character or whatever in the movie. There's a lot of little changes and one big change. So, but why do I like this book? So this book is pretty cool because the beginning really kind of sucks you in because it paints a picture that's very interesting about what actually happened. I found some of the other books, the exposition at the beginning is a little boring, a little dry, but in this case, it was kind of creating more intrigue, I thought. Again, maybe because I was thinking about the movie, but maybe I think it just does a little better job of painting an interesting picture about what's going on and why is this happening and so forth. There are a lot of action scenes. Some of the books only have a couple action scenes, but this one has several. So that keeps it a little more interesting. There's a lot of kind of cat and mouse between Reacher and the bad guys. And it has some compelling villains. The main villain and his henchmen or whatever are pretty compelling. There's the intrigue about who's the mole or whatever that works with the villain. And again, it's kind of fun to compare it to the movie because it's one of the few that have a movie or a show version. There's about 4 or 5 of the novels that have either a movie version or kind of that are incorporated into the TV show on Amazon. So yeah, so I think this book's pretty cool. It's probably my favorite one. Like I said, is it the best? So far, I like this one the best, and I liked Killing Floor the second best, I think. And then there's several others that are kind of roughly tied for third place and a couple that I didn't like as much. So, and that's after reading about the first 12 books in the series. So what are your thoughts? How do you like this book compared to the other Reacher books? Any other thoughts? So again, I didn't want to do any spoilers because I want you to let you just kind of experience it. But those are just kind of some of my general thoughts about One Shot, the Reacher book. Anything else? So it has some cool characters. I like some of the characters that Reacher works with in this book. I think a lot of them are pretty well developed. Even some of the fringe characters are somewhat well developed. I think the plot is interesting to kind of think about as it's going along and then how some of the pieces fit together. Sometimes with the Reacher books, the way the pieces fit together at the end seems a little contrived or far-fetched or whatever. In this case, it seemed pretty reasonable. It made a lot of sense how the plot could fit together once you kind of connect the dots. Yeah, I was just thinking about one of the scenes in the book and how I was thinking back to what it was like in the movie versus the book, blah, blah, blah. And of course, one big thing you can never get past with the Tom Cruise version of the movie, the Tom Cruise movies, there's 2 of them, I think, is that Reacher's supposed to be this 6'5", 200 and who knows, 250 pound or 230 pound guy who's really muscular and big. And so Tom Cruise is not those things. So the scenes play out a bit differently and even the plot a little bit differently because sometimes they reference how big he is in terms of, when he's implicated in some crime or whatever. So that's kind of funny, but all right. So those are my thoughts about One Shot. Liked it a lot. Highly recommend if you haven't read it. You might even want to watch the movie before like I did, or you could do it the other way around and see how that goes. But I'd say I liked it when I watched the movie and then read this book afterwards. It actually seemed like a cool way to do it. But there was a couple months in between, so I didn't remember every detail perfectly, like if you just watched it and then immediately started reading the book. So something to consider. All right. Yeah. Go check it out.